Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed. My friends, today I wanted to do an episode while I'm in the car driving to a job site, and I was thinking about it, and there's a couple things I wanted to discuss, but the overall arch of this show today is going to be relating to liberals and why they love illegals. You know what's interesting to me, my friends? You know, there was a time in American history before Donald Trump, before illegal immigration went out of control. You know, if we look back, there was a time when you either went through Ellis Island or you went through, I think they went through San Francisco, like the Alcatraz area on the West Coast. And you were processed as a legal immigrant. And there were some rules in place. If you were sick, sorry, can't come through. Are you a criminal? Nope, sorry, you can't come through. There were rules in place for understanding who was coming in, why they were coming in, were they able to be self-sustaining, were they needing a sponsor who already lived here, were they needing a work visa, like all of these things were in place. And there was no welfare. There was no, oh, come right here, sir, I'm with the ACLU. If when in doubt, scream racism because, you know, you're black or you're Hispanic or you're Arabic or, you know, whatever it might be, you're Asian, whatever it might be. Step right here. We're going to give you SNAP benefits. We're going to give you a housing voucher. And if anybody says anything, scream racism. And talk about how white males made your life miserable. Talk about how the Christians, they make you feel bad. I mean, you think I'm being facetious and hyperbolic, but, you know, I wish I was, frankly. I really wish I was, because how many of you, raise a hands, who live across America, or maybe even around the world, how many of you have seen these signs, whether it's in your neighbor's front yard, a local coffee shop, on the internet, on X, or on TikTok? How many of you have seen this, like, oh, hate has no business here, we love everybody, we support women's rights, we support Black Lives Matter, we love all immigrants, you know, the classic stuff like that. How many of you have seen that? Huh? Raise your hands. How many of you have seen that? I have. I see it everywhere I go. And you ever notice that the same people will go on X, they'll go on TikTok, they'll go on Instagram, and they'll talk about how, oh, white privilege, the white people, especially those dumb white males, they think the country's rigged against them, and they have all this privilege. Meanwhile, they're the ones who support everybody except for white males, everybody except for heterosexuals, everybody except for Christians. And then they'll talk about how they're not oppressing them, while actively talking about how the white, straight, Christian, heterosexual male deserves nothing. And in fact, they owe other people stuff. You ever notice that? And you know, my friends, I hate to even have this conversation. Truthfully, it pains me a little bit. And the reason why it pains me is I really wish we didn't even have to have a discussion like this. I wish I could step up on here and say, hey, we live in this meritocracy. Your race, your sex, your orientation, that has nothing to do with anything. If you're qualified to do the job, if you're qualified to speak, if you're qualified to do any of these things, that's why you're there. It has nothing to do with your skin color or your sexual orientation or your saying the right things in line with the Democrat or Republican machine. I wish that none of those things existed, so everybody could look at everyone around them, their neighbors, people on the internet, and say, you know what? Even though I dislike you or I dislike your politics or both, I know you're qualified, I know you're able to do what you're doing, and I respect you for that. But the problem is we don't live in that world. We don't live in that reality. Because in the name of fairness, they're unfair to everybody around them. And if you say I'm wrong, you're going to have to answer a very simple question. Why is it that before they got rid of standardized testing? Because keep in mind, I graduated out of high school in 2018. When I was still in high school, you had to take this thing called the SAT and the ACT. I don't even know if they exist anymore, because apparently you don't even need to take it to go to college today. But in my day, they needed to take it to go to college. If you wanted to go to a good college, you had to get a certain score on your SAT or a certain score on your ACT, and have good grades, and you either got in or you didn't. Now they don't even take standardized testing, or it's optional, which means that if you're white or you're Asian or you're Jewish, you have to take it, and you have to get basically a perfect score. If you're not one of those, then you don't have to take it, because it doesn't matter. They're going to let you in anyway, because they want to look good on paper. They don't necessarily want people, they don't care about the lives they're ruining. They don't care about how they're replacing you. Oh, by the way, did you know that the Great Replacement theory has been proven to be true? The same way that the Jeffrey Epstein files have proven that guys like Alex Jones, guys like Michael Savage, those guys were right the whole time about the pedophiles running the world. That the demonic sex cult was running the world the whole time and you didn't know about it. And yet all of a sudden, oh yeah, it turns out the whole thing was right. Turns out the whole thing was totally true. Meanwhile, for 30 years, everybody in the middle and the left was like, oh my gosh, what are you kidding me? Come on. The whole thing's a right-wing, far-right conspiracy theory, like with the birds not being real and make spies for the CIA. Come on. It's a bunch of garbage. Well, it turns out it wasn't. What's next? The frogs are going to turn out to be gay too? I mean, but come on. I mean, you gotta laugh at these things, because if you're not laughing, you can go insane altogether, because the world is so upside down. Speaking of upside down, anybody watch the end of Stranger Things? Fantastic series, by the way. Absolutely fantastic. I'm not huge on Netflix, considering that Michelle and Barack Obama are executive producers over there at Netflix, but my God. I mean, Stranger Things, not too bad. I actually thought it was pretty good. But, that's neither here nor there. This is a stream of consciousness show. You might say, Austin, you're jumping around from this to that to the other thing. Why do you do that? Why can't you just stay on one topic and beat it to death like a horse being on a horse racing track, and just keep, beating it to death the whole time and do it for 30 minutes? Well, my mind doesn't work that way. And if yours does, God bless you, that's great, but mine doesn't work that way. I'm in a car. I'm driving 2 hours to a job site because, I work in the insurance industry, and I'm driving to do an inspection, and I thought to myself, you know what? Instead of driving for 2 hours and listening to old radio, I don't listen to a lot of music like most people do in their cars. They turn on the music, or they go on Spotify, and they just listen to their music in their cars. I mean, I don't do that, and the reason I don't do that much is because, to me, I would much rather listen to something that stimulates my mind. I mean, I would imagine that's why you listen to this show, because it does the same thing for you. Even if you hate my guts politically, you hate what I have to say, you hate talking about illegal immigration, you hate talking about political stuff, you might find either my voice, you might find the tone, you might find something about me interesting, even if you hate the politics. Oh, speaking of politics for another second, I came up with this concept over the weekend, this last week that I thought about, and I realized that, I believe that I need to start my own kind of like Turning Point USA, whatever type of organization. And I've been playing with names on it, and I think we should go with Project Superpower. Not to be confused with Project 2025, or whatever was it Paul Manafort? Who came up with that one? I don't remember. Was Steve something? I don't remember his name. Came up with that one. No, but Project Superpower, I think, is what I want to name it. And I think we need to really see it as a nationalistic movement that's not based in xenophobia, but instead is based and rooted in understanding that America can only survive as long as there's a natural sense of borders, language, and culture, like how Michael Savage talked about in his books 20 years ago. Most people who are about my age, maybe a little older, a little younger, and might not even know who he is. But a lot of his books, I grew up on listening to him. I grew up on listening to a lot of the stuff that, I don't really like Sean Hannity. I didn't listen to Rush much. I didn't really like him that much. He's always just seemed like a golf bag, a water boy for the Republican Party, which I am not, and I don't respect people who are a water boy for anything. except maybe their local football team, because they're actually contributing to the community, not just contributing to the sacking of the treasury or the lying about illegal. I mean, come on. If you've figured out by now that the two-party system is essentially you either get tofu or fake beef, I don't know what to I don't know what to tell you. I mean, to be fair, there are a lot better Republicans than there are Democrats, but that's because the Democrat Party of your grandfather died a long time ago. They traded in the red, white, and blue for just red and a yellow sickle and a hammer because they decided, hey, you know what? Instead of workers of America, let's go workers of the world. Instead of going back in the 1930s, there were the Weimar communists and then the National Socialists. Instead of they're both socialists, but one leaned more towards the left in communism, and the other took more of a turn towards the center with nationalism. And then the rest is history, because people don't understand that instead of targeting communists, they targeted Jews, because they were simpletons and didn't understand the dynamics of the situation. But you know what? That's the other issue, is the rise of anti-Semitism in the country, because people can't distinguish between a Berg or a Stein in someone's last name and being a communist. They think that it's one and the same when it's 100% false. But you know what? There's a saying that I like, that I heard once, and it said, those who know will always know, and those who don't will never. They never get it. They always see the shadows on the wall that Plato talked about in his allegory of the cave. And if you don't know who Plato was, I'm not talking about like Pluto, as in Mickey's dog. I'm talking about Plato, as in the philosopher from ancient Greece. And if you don't know the allegory of the cave, I would highly recommend check it out, because it all stems to a man is chained in a cave, and he's staring at a wall in the cave, and he sees the shadows on the wall because there are people walking in and out of the cave with a light or a fire showing what they're doing, but the guy doesn't ever see the actors. He doesn't see the flame. All he sees are the shadows on the wall, until he breaks out and he suddenly sees everything for the first time, and not just the shadows on the wall. And he returns to that cave, and he tells the other people who are also chained to that wall looking at the shadows, he tries to explain the shadows to them. Oh, this shadow is a man walking by. This shadow is a dog. Oh, and by the way, outside of these shadows, there's a whole big outside world with this big open sky and this ocean and the mountains and the creeks and whatever. And they look at him and they're like, we don't understand what you're saying. We can't understand what you're saying. And they get violent. Instead of realizing that there's something they don't know that they don't know, they can't accept it. They don't want to accept it. So what they do is they get violent. That is what can encapsulate a lot of the political landscape today. People don't want to understand the complexities of the topic. They don't want to say either immigrants good or immigrants bad. There aren't good immigrants. They're legal ones. They don't come in illegally. The same way that you wouldn't want someone to break into your house to be your house guest, you don't want someone breaking into your country to be an immigrant. And there wasn't welfare 100 years ago when immigrants came here, either before or after World War II, World War I. There was no socialism to save them and no social safety nets for them to leech off of. You either worked in the coal mines, you worked in the fields, you worked out in the factories in New York, upstate New York, New Jersey, out in Connecticut or Pennsylvania, and you lived 5 people to a room, which is what happens when you move somewhere new. You start from the bottom and you work your way up. Your kids got a house, your grandkids have a house and a car, your great-grandkids have a house, 2 cars, and a dog baby, and boom. That's the American dream. Not coming here to leech off the system so that I get to pay tons of taxes and you get to pay tons of taxes, so the taxpayers have less representation than the drains on the system. That's why I want to launch Project Superpower. And I'll lay out in a whole different show. I'll outline the principles that Project Superpower stands for, with getting America back to being the superpower that it once was and is at the risk of losing its status as a superpower. And we need to get it back. And to do that, we got to cut the fat. We got to remove the dead weight. And we have to get ourselves lean, green, and mean and back to where we were supposed to be and where we've historically been. You let me know, my friends. What do you think? You think I'm out of line for this? They love the illegal aliens in California. They love the illegal aliens in Arizona. They love them because they want them to vote. You think they give it to them because they're nice people? There's no voter ID. And if you think I'm lying to you, oh, Austin, we all know illegal aliens can't vote. Really? Well, then it shouldn't be a big deal to get rid of them then. Call ICE. Call ICE. Have them pick up the illegals, and if you still win by a landslide, you're right. But if you don't, because you know you won't, then you were lying the whole time. Guys like Gavin Newsom, in my estimation, are in power. Nancy Pelosi and all these others, and Barbara Boxer and all these, Zoe Lofgren, and all these people, in my estimation, are in power because of illegal aliens. And if they want to tell me I'm wrong, then go ahead, kick out the illegals or pass voter ID. And then the minute that you still win by a landslide with the taxpayers voting, not the tax leeches, then I'll believe you. Until then, you're a liar. And we all know it. My friends, you let me know. Am I out of line? What do you think? You let me know. Why do you think liberals love illegals? Why do you think this is indeed the case? I'll be back. But I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I'm out of here. Peace.